Hey y'all, welcome back to the shop. My name is Jared. I am the owner-operator of Oak and Iron Custom Furniture and Interiors. Today, we are going to be showing you guys how to make a custom 4-glass wine glass holder. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's a finished one that we have done recently. We are going to teach you, start to finish, how to make this unique wine glass holder. Now, we're going to be making ours out of oak. This one's made out of oak. We've stained it a darker stain. You can do it out of pine or exotic woods, whatever you have. We're doing it out of oak because our name's Oak and Iron, so we kind of like oak. And we've got plenty of scrap oak laying around, so that's what we're going to use for ours. Once again, pine, maple, zebra, whatever you want to use, that's completely up to you. Depends on the look that you're going for. Now, the next phase is the types of tools that you're going to need for this particular build. Tape measure. Going to need one of these because we have to lay out the correct size of the wine glass holder. Ruler. You'll understand in just a few minutes. Pencil. Is that kind of self-explanatory why you need a pencil? Drill bits. We are going to go over the different style of drill bits that you will need or that you can use based on your preference. You're not going to need all of these. I'm just going to explain the difference once we get to that portion of the operation. Obviously, these drill bits need something to be drilled with. So, hey, that's why we have a drill. Jigsaw. We'll talk about the particular blade that we're going to use once we get to that step. But this jigsaw is going to cut the channels that the stemware from the glasses go in. Squeeze clamp. What this is going to do is hold our piece in place when we're actually doing the work of marking and drilling and sanding. That way we can have our hands free to do other things, and this acts as a third hand for us. And then the main piece of our operation, the actual wood that we're going to cut this out of. Now, I'm not a very big wine connoisseur. The bottle that we've used for this particular project, I consider to be a standard size. So everything that we're doing measurement-wise fits this particular size bottle. You can change different things about yours to fit the bottles that you're going to be using. But for this particular build, these measurements that we will be mentioning during the build work for this size. The actual holder is an 8x8. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of scrap and cut it to an 8x8 inch square. So let's get started on that. All right. So like we said, we're going to make this an 8x8. Just pull off the edge of the board to 8 inches. Make your mark. Now, one thing I want to step aside, and if you've watched our previous video where we talk about the different tools that you need to get started in woodworking, we didn't mention a miter saw, but the same tool that we mentioned, a skill saw, will do the exact same thing. However, since we have access to a miter saw, it does make it easier, so we're going to use the miter saw. Slide the board down till our blade is right at our mark. Make sure our fingers are out of the way. And we have our first 8-inch side. Coming off the opposite side this time. Once again, we make our 8-inch mark. Make sure our fingers are out of the way. Bring our blade down to our mark. And now we have our 8x8 square. Let's take it back over to the table. So now we've got our 8x8 square, the finished size for our wine glass holder. we've got to start laying out where we want the holes, channels, and center hole for the wine glass holder to go. This is a very, very easy process. First thing you're going to do is draw a line, actually 2 lines, from corner to corner of the piece, giving us our center point. This is where we will drill our hole for the actual wine bottle neck to go through. And now we have to figure out where we want the holes on each one of our corners for our stemware on the glass to slide through at. For this particular bottle that we are using and the particular wine glasses that we are using, our marks for where we're going to drill go 3 3/4 down from our center line. So you're going to make 4 marks each corner, because this is a 4-glass wine holder, 3 3/4 from the center point. Those marks will be where we drill our holes for the stemware. Now, let's talk about the drill bits that we mentioned earlier. We are going to use what is called a Forstner bit. Just creates a much cleaner hole. It's personal preference. We're using a 3/8. You can use a regular drill bit if you would like. You could use a 3/8 paddle bit. There's several different kinds of bits that you could use. Once again, it's your personal preference. I will caution you, no matter what bit you use, start by taking a very, very small regular drill bit and drilling a pilot hole at all 5 points that are going to receive a larger hole. Drill all the way through your piece of board. So we're working on our shop table, so if we drill into the table, it's no big deal. If you're working on something that you're afraid to put holes in or damage, put something below it that you don't mind getting damage to. So without further ado, we're going to drill these 5 holes first. We're done with this bit now. We won't need it anymore, so we'll throw it to the side. I'm sure it'll get lost and we'll have to buy more. That's the way it normally happens. Let me explain to you why we drilled those holes. No matter what bit that you use, if you try drilling all the way through this, more oftentimes than not, you're going to have a result of what we call tear out or blowout, meaning that when we drill all the way through this, it's just going to cause this explosion of wood and look really nasty and ugly on the bottom side or top side or whatever side you ended up going all the way through. So to avoid that, I like to start on the bottom side. This is going to be our bottom. This Forstner bit comes with a pilot point. You're going to take that pilot point, find the hole that you just made. The shoulder of this Forstner bit is 1/2 inch exactly. So we know that we won't go all the way through if we go just to the top of the shoulder. This 5/8 Forstner bit is only used for the 4 corners because we're going to do a larger hole in the center for the wine glass bottle. Now that we're just about a little over halfway through, flip it over. Do the same thing on this side. Find your hole with your pilot point, and now you can drill all the way through, and the other side will come out just as smooth as the top. As you can see, both sides relatively clean already. All right, now that we have our 4 holes for the actual glasses that will eventually slide into these holes done, we're going to drill the large hole for our neck of our wine bottle. The larger bit that you use, the more opportunity that you have for it to kick the board around, hit you in your stomach, or hurt you in some shape, form, or fashion. So what I like to do at this point is to go ahead and take a clamp it to our work surface. That's going to, for the most part, keep it from sliding around. Once again, we are using a Forstner bit that's 1.5 inches. Depending on your wine bottle, you can use a larger hole, smaller hole, whatever you choose to do for yours. Make it your own. Whatever works for you, works for you. Same process as the other 4 holes that we drilled. We're going to go down about 1/2 inch. Flip it over, finish drilling the rest of the hole. Find our center point with our pallet. Flip it over. Clamp it down. Once again. And now we have all the holes that we're going to need in order to complete our wine glass holder. Problem is that this won't fit in here. So we have to cut our channels that allow the stemware to slide through and then rest in the hole. The way we accomplish this, take our straight edge that we used earlier. You want to try to make sure that you've got the same arch, part of a circle, part of a moon, on one end as you do the other. Now, we're not talking about perfection here, guys. We're talking about quality, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's woodworking. So if you're off a little bit, don't stress out. Now, some of you that are very, don't like anything to be unleveled, if you want to take and measure from one side to the other and follow that line, perfectly fine. I kind of just feel good enough to eyeball it. Once again, I try to get the same on both ends, try to get it the same as I did the other. Make my mark here, make my mark here, and then we're going to go right to the other side of each hole and do the exact same thing. And now, if you take a close look, you're going to see this line's closer to here than this one is to here. It's not going to, that's not earth-shattering. That's not world-changing. We're going to be okay. Our wine glass will still slide through that, and no one's ever going to notice once we get these lines gone. In order to cut these lines, I'm going to use our jigsaw. Now, one thing that I'm also going to point out to you, when you're cutting oak, when you're cutting a denser wood, try to use something with a much higher tooth count. That's going to give you a much cleaner, much easier cut. Try to use a blade that's new or hasn't been used much, especially when you're cutting a very hard wood like oak. Once again, we're going to clamp it to our worktop. I like to let it hang out over the edge. That way I'm not trying to cut through the table as well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to line my blade up to the line that I drew and follow that line all the way till I get to the hole and then stop. Don't try to come back out the cut that you just made. Go right into the hole, stop, and then pull it out. Now come right to the other line, do the same thing. So we've made our channel for our stemware. Repeat that same process 3 more times. You'll have all the holes and channels that you need for all 4 glasses. Now that we have all of our holes and channels done, it's time to start cleaning this thing up a little.